There it is. Hey, not
Yo,
a fan. I'm going
no,
to
I'm
point
just
over to
reading.
Jeff.
I'm
Jeff
just
right
reading dumb
there.
stuff. Yeah, and there's
Jeff
Greg over
there.
there.
Woohoo.
It is
It worked.
amazing how us being the 40/40 men, being smart fellas, reading so much stuff online from dumb fellas or fellettes. You
Let's.
know, yeah.
That's okay.
Like
It happens.
like I said, I'm on that Quora website, and people ask the dumbest questions, like, why do people expect the United States to take in so many refugees when it barely benefits us and they're not our problem here? Or how can Canadian First Nations place names be spelled with what seems to me to be hieroglyphics when originally they did not have an alphabetical written language? People are dumb. Dumb, 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 dumb. That will be the
Yes.
downfall of society. Stupidity.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every place has had like some form of written language, be it an alphabet, be it a whatever. So,
Yeah,
you know what? Suck it. Cool. All
I
right.
don't
Well,
understand people. People is dumb. People is dumb. So yeah, so we're wearing our fighting J hats,
yeah, the Angry
and
Jays. Both of us randomly, without having a chat about this, wore the
well,
same era Jays hats, and I
I'm
I
pretty.
got around to this.
I'm
I
pretty
came
sure
around
this
to
was a gift, because how often do you see a brown hat with the Fighting J logo on it? And as you can see, fits really stupid. I don't know if
yeah,
this is
mine
new era, but I don't know
mine
if that was the
mine
way it
mine
was
is
back then.
yeah
Yours is
mine's
better.
camo. Mine's camo, and I have a couple of different camo versions of it. I've got the camo with the T. I've got a camo with just like the outline of the new J logo. But I kind of do like this one because I'd worked it in quite a bit, so it literally just fits right on the head. So yeah,
Yeah, it
but
looks like I'm
I've come
trying. Like
around to this logo. Yeah,
I've got a big head, man. Like I got a really big head. Look at all this extra. Like I've got
we
one of
we
the biggest
both
heads you could. There you go.
we
There,
both
now it
have
fits
large
properly.
melons. I have noticed this. Both of us do have large melons.
Oh, I
It's
have
more
one of the
it's more the
biggest.
forehead problem that I have, and so that's why I need a hat with like sort of a deep inset kind of thing, so it
I'm
sort
just
of
doing it to
covers it
hide
up.
out my baldness.
Ah.
I gotta start getting one of those like fancy like cool hats, like hipster hats, rather than wearing Blue Jay hats all the time. Like if I get a
There's
hipster
nothing
hat
wrong
of
with
some
wearing Blue
kind,
Jay hats,
or I
or
can
you
do
could get
like Timothy
a.
Chalamet and Harry Styles and just wear dresses and crap everywhere I go.
Well, I mean, they've also got
Like
like
a
a
weirdo.
luscious head of hair, so I think it works well for them. So, or you could just
It's
toupee it
true.
up. You never know. That's an
Oh,
option
do
too,
do
right?
like do like the Les Nessman style.
Yes, most definitely.
Because
A
when he put
couple
it on the
boys
one, he
over.
goes. There's that scene where he puts it on his head. Yeah, it's great. Um,
All
they did
right.
a toupee thing in Seinfeld too. I think, didn't they? Yeah, George was going to wear a toupee, and they were like,
See,
"Looks stupid."
okay, now here's where everyone, especially if this was airing in New York. Okay, now I know a lot of Seinfeld references, but I never watched Seinfeld. I have seen every episode because we always used to have it on in the background of the bar and the TV, um, but
You
never
never
had
heard it.
sound, never heard it. So I've seen every episode probably twice. So I've seen some of the sight gags and stuff like that, and a couple of the big ones I know, but there's a lot of ones that I don't know. So
Well, there was one
I'm
where George
I'm
was getting like a really expensive one done. Like he went to a special
mhm.
place, and Seinfeld at school, and they're like, "You look stupid. You look you look ridiculous. You look stupid." And so he went with George to get the proper fitting done to the store. And the
Mhm.
guy's like, and the person who's selling it to him goes, "Why are you trying to ruin your friend's life? Why are you saying such horrible things to him?" Because I'm his friend. He looks stupid. That
You
kind of
have to
thing.
know it. Yeah.
It's my parents' favorite show. They love Seinfeld. They absolutely love that show.
Well, let's talk about this show. How about we chat
Yeah,
about the Jays? A little 5-3 on the week.
six and
Um,
two.
6-2. I thought it was
Six
five.
and
Well,
two.
no, if you take on the Sunday game, because that's eight.
Well, yeah. Where's my thing? I'm pulling up my. I had to I had to install
Yeah,
something else here.
because the Sunday game we lost against the Rangers, and that's the 11th, and then you've got the 12th
Yeah.
win, a 13th, like
Oh,
split the doubleheader with
that's
the
what I
Rays.
did.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah,
I labeled it wrong. I mislabeled.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
but
See,
even with
this
that
time I
loss,
remembered this. This time I remembered the Sunday game. I'm okay with that.
no, I'm surprised I remembered anything. But they did. But the good thing about that one still is they finished the road trip 8-2, which is killer
Yeah,
because basically I have to double check it's a little different now, but I have to double check their standings. But they basically have the same record on the road as they do at home, which is weird.
they actually are better on the road now, like by a couple of percents. But yeah, that and actually, what's crazy is the Yanks actually had a pretty good week this week, but we still caught up. We still caught up to them, and actually, we were two spots. We were in the second, like the third spot in the wild card
Yeah,
last
we were
week,
yeah.
and now we're in the top spot with a 2-game lead on Tampa. So that helped.
We do have to take into consideration that every other team has games in hand on us.
Yes,
Like that's why this.
but those games in hand, this is what I think about as well. Those games in hand, they can also lose.
Well, no, they can. But
Mm-hmm.
see, the only thing the one thing that worries about me, when we'll get into it in a little bit, is the Mariners because their schedule is the easiest bloody schedule you can possibly think of. It's
Oh yeah,
ridiculous. Like they are playing a bunch of nobodies, and we're playing the Rays and the Yankees. Well, and the Orioles
the
are
Phillies.
falling off. Like I said last week.
Phillies.
Yep.
We got the
And
Phillies. The Phillies are actually pretty decent
yep.
too.
But it's like I said last week, I told everybody Baltimore was going to fall off the wagon, and they're falling off the wagon huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Jays are 40-32 on the road, and 43-31 at home. So actually,
That sounds right.
they've
Yeah.
gone up. They're slightly better at home now than they were on the road, but still, that's
Okay.
just crazy.
And there's 16 games left. That makes it. Yeah.
See, well, okay, so the Yankees have one game in hand on us. The Rays have one game in hand on us, which both of them don't really factor in.
No.
And then I believe Seattle has 3 games in hand on us, which I find very interesting because they're 80-63, 80-64. So they're 2 games on us now. We're 3 up in the win column, and we're 1 better than in the loss column.
Yeah.
So they still can't tie us even if they do. So all these ones, to get rid of the half games and stuff. Seattle can't catch us right now. Tampa Bay can't catch us right now. That 3-game set with the Yankees could determine if we might possibly have a shot at the East Division crown.
Division. Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like if you keep that at 4.5 or whatever and go into that series, come out of it because that's 4 games against the Yankees. So that could bring us down
Is it
to
a 4-game or is it 3? Ooh,
4.
I thought it was a 3-game set. Ooh.
Sorry, no, it's 4. It's 4 against Tampa, 4 against Tampa, 3 against the Yankees. Yeah. But still,
See, what worries me is that Tampa series because we always play like crap in Tampa.
Yeah, which is kind of
Tampa's
hilarious because we actually have more fan support in Tampa than Tampa does.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the only
way
thing
more
is
Jays
like
fans,
the problem we have with Tampa now is Tampa was they weren't doing that great for a while because they had a lot of injuries. They're getting everybody back. Everybody's back from injury, so Tampa's going to be really difficult to hold off. Like we. Hopefully, like our bullpen days, like if we go through the games, our bullpen days have been pretty decent. Like not the best of the best, but we did all right.
We've actually had 2 bullpen days like this week,
well, actually,
and the first one
we had 3, didn't we? Because the Sunday game was a bullpen game led by Trevor Richards. Then
and then that was
game 1
where he was beaten up on.
Yeah, a little bit, and then. Yeah. Game 1 of the doubleheader, Merriweather was the opener and White pitched 6. And then Friday, Richards was the opener and Kikuchi gave up a couple runs. So there were 3 bullpen days. But that's because we keep getting these doubleheaders.
Yeah, Kikuchi does still take the brunt of those as well. Like he still takes like about 2 or 3 innings out of that. And he actually, to be honest, I actually don't mind him in that role. Like he was done okay.
It's funny because of all the play, every time we have those bullpen games, he pitches. He's the guy who gives up the runs. It's weird.
Yeah,
like
but he's he's also the one who pitches like 2 or 3 innings, where some guys come in and just pitch an inning. Like don't get me wrong,
True.
like in the first one, Pop only faced 4 batters, but he struck out 2 of them. So
Yep.
like he was in for an inning and a bit, right? And then Richards, obviously, or Richardson, I should say, his ERA is now at 27.
Well,
That's not
Richards,
a
like
good
he
one.
gave up the five, like that game they had. He gave up 5 runs on what was it, Thursday, because Gosman gave up 5 and Richards gave up 5 when they lost like that 11-0 blowout to the
Yeah,
Rays.
that's one we're not going to talk
Barrios,
about. And I have a feeling that one was one of those ones because it was sort of like that getaway game that that they always just sort of don't even bother with, and then it gets away from them, and then by
well,
the
and
time
that
they
was
realize they're like 8-0.
when it was they played the doubleheader, and like 5 games in 4 days is not easy. And like they've had no days off. Like they
Well,
went six
they had 8 games this week. They had 8 games this week, so
to
like they were playing every day
yeah,
and a doubleheader. So
yeah. So 6-3 is not bad for what they had to go through. But now their bullpen days pretty much did all right. They kind of did what they were supposed to do. Like
yeah.
I mean, they lost those games, but they saved the arms. Like
Well,
White
no,
came
they
in
they
and pitched
won they
6 innings
won
on.
they won the
Well,
one
no, they
against
lost.
Baltimore. They won one against
Yeah.
Baltimore, a pitcher by committee game, yeah, and that
Well,
was
they
the
lost
six
the one
three.
on. Yeah, they lost the one to the Rangers on the Sunday. Then they lost the opening game 4-2 of the doubleheader when Merriweather opened. But I mean,
Yeah,
White did pretty good. I mean, he came back and I think he only gave up the couple runs and that was it. So for 6 innings, that's kind of what you're looking for. So
yeah,
even though they lost, the whole point was to save the rotation for the other games that were as important. And
yeah.
Manoah battled his ass off in game 2, considering that he was supposed to start game 1 and was sick as a dog, and still pitched game 2 anyway, even though he was feeling like crap and like
Well,
was throwing up the night before.
I like his progression though, because we had a couple of starts in a row for him where he kind of, he was not on top form, and had a couple of losses in a row, and then he,
Yeah.
came back with like an 8 inning game where he probably could have gone the distance, and then now he's done like 2 in a week, where
Well, he did.
he's actually been all
He
right.
did
Like
six and two thirds.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well, he did
he's
six
and
and two thirds
he's
on game. He would have done better if he wasn't sick. But you could tell he was
yeah.
sick. He was sweating
But
like crazy.
he gave up less than a hit per inning, and struck out a batter inning. So I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And
His whip
actually
is one right now.
yeah, that game there, it was kind of funny because I was watching that game. That's one of the games that I did actually get a chance to watch, and Merrifield literally had one at bat, and I was just like, oh man, and
Nothing else.
it's like he got yeah, and I was like, oh okay,
Yeah.
cool, because I was ready to like already start hating again. I'm like, you suck, man, and then okay, cool.
The amount
So
of
one
times
hit,
that the guys on TV were like, "Well, he's finally contributed something." Oh my
yeah,
God, we were starting to wonder, and he's finally done something. It's like they repeated it for like days afterwards. Thank God Merrifield got that double because I don't know. I mean, even Jackie Bradley Jr. has been a great his defense has
yeah.
been awesome, and
Well,
he's had some
but I
timely
mean,
hits.
there was that's the thing too, right? Like each game, so there's been 8 games this week, and every different day there was a different batter that was sort of the big gun for that one. Chapman had a couple of games where he was the guy. Kirk was involved in that. Bo was still hitting well. Espinal and Jansen on
Yeah,
Stripling's game, and Espinal had a 3-hit game as well. But then you got Springer and Vladdy to sort of finish it off. Like each game, there's always been there's been a different contributor, which is good because at least we're not just relying on like Vladdy.
that's the thing. Like when baseball, this is what I keep with these pissy J fan types that I keep trying to explain to them. It's like your big guns can't win you every game. They just can't.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason there's 26, well now 28 guys on the rosters. All of them have to contribute in some way or another when the big guys aren't firing. So if the big guys aren't
Yeah,
firing, then the guys in the bottom lineup do it. And that's the way it should be. I mean, I'm still concerned about Vlad because I mean he's getting his hits and stuff, but he's just off. He's
yeah,
just off. There's something going on, and I can't. Like, I'm hoping that they've been watching him, and John Schneider saying that he can see him slowly turning it around.
mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that maybe in the next couple weeks he does kind of figure out what's going on. Because if he figures that out towards the end of the season, that's going into the postseason.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, the only way we're getting through the postseason if he's doing what he needs to do.
Yeah.
We're not going to get through it because if you can focus and keep getting him out in the second spot, like that's just it's been an automatic almost, like like those pounding the balls into the ground to the shortstop just
Yeah,
keep happening.
and that's a thing too. We actually had we've had a lot of ground out double plays in this last week, even though our bats have actually come back from earlier on in August, because we actually had a little dull period at the beginning of August. The bats are back, and specifically Bo, like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we were talking about Bo as being like massive trade bait. And he has literally played his way back onto the team in a span of 2 weeks. Not even just played his way. He's the star. Yeah.
He's all up on the like he's second in the league in hits again. Like he's up there in home runs. He's up there in everything now. He just the 2 weeks just launched them. Like, and that's the thing about baseball. You never like slumps and things always happen. Like I keep trying to explain to people that
they play every day. They play every day,
especially Bo playing every day. I do like the fact, like we talked about the rule changes. I like the fact that they're going to eliminate the shift. And there was reading this interesting article about how Gosman, specifically, the way he pitches and the way the balls are hit off of him, is not conducive to the shift. Like he's not benefiting from it, even though they're doing it to, anyways. He's actually, the way he pitches doesn't benefit from it. That they say he could have a lower ERA and less runs given up with the shift being eliminated.
Yeah. Well, here let's take a second to go to a commercial. Ponder the response to that. I'll do the Canadian way.
Yeah.
Well, folks, Jeff complained about his hat earlier on in the broadcast and said that it wasn't fitting well. So, you know what? We know a company that can actually make some hats. The Canadian Way. The fast fashion industry makes up about 10% of CO2 emissions and pollutes and dries up water resources. 85% of all textiles end up in a dump each year. So do you want to change those stats and do you want to look good while doing it? Then shop the Canadian Way. Clothing created by the Canadian Way is made from repurposed, recycled, and or biodegradable materials, manufactured in CO2 neutral sites by workers who are paid a proper wage, and all within this great country of ours. So if you're tired of contributing to the endless supply of garbage produced by humanity, then shop the Canadian Way, starting fall 2020. The Canadian Way. There we go. Canadian Way. They make hats too, and they'll make good hats for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, we were at Gosman in the shift.
Yeah, so Gosman, like I said, the way the numbers lay out, like he's got a ridiculous batting average of balls in play. Was it BABIP? It's really, really high.
It sounds like a dyslexic kid saying, Old MacDonald had a farm.
Here's so everybody knows about FIP, FIP, fielding independent pitching. So that basically gives you what a pitcher does or should do without the defense involved. He has the second biggest margin of difference between his ERA and his FIP. The only person who's worse is Patrick Corbin, who has a horrible ERA.
Wow.
Yeah. His is 1.04 runs difference, which is huge. And it just comes from some of the defense they play with him. So I like I said, I've never been a big fan of the shift. I think we need to get back to the way baseball was meant to be played, because if you start putting things back in the way they're meant to be done, you're going to start seeing stolen bases, hit and runs, and things like that coming back. And I think that's one thing that's missing in baseball, why it gets so boring after a while.
That extension of the base is actually going to help too, right? Like that's actually, it'll create a little more of an opening. And then the amount of times that there's been like such a close play where it's just like a millimeter where they've got the tag on and stuff as well. I mean, for us last week, for the Jays, we had 4 stolen bases last week, and that's actually good for us.
Yeah.
Like
No, it's
think
something.
about
Considering who
yeah
we've got in the with Tapia, with Merrifield,
yeah
Bo,
Bo
these
yeah
guys can run. Like
yeah.
Bo's barely stole. Like, he stole some base, not many. Even Vladdy has our leading stolen base leader is Springer, and he's got 13. I mean, last year all the stolen bases. Like the one thing I read, and everybody kind of knows this: Ricky Henderson in his biggest year stole 130 bases.
Yeah.
No team stole 130 bases last year. Not
Well,
even a team.
that's that little meme that I sent you. It's like if someone was to start playing baseball now and stole at least 50 bases every
Mm-hmm.
season, they would have to do that for 28 years in order to tie Ricky Henderson. Like,
Yeah, back then, like you were getting guys who were stealing 80, 90 bases, like Tim
yeah,
Raines, Lou
Tim
Brock,
Raines,
all these
super,
guys.
Eric Coleman as well.
Mhm.
That was sorry Eric Young, I should say. Eric Young was another one from the Astros, and that was like
I
back
think you
in
were thinking
the
of Vince Coleman was
Vince
who you were
Coleman. I was
thinking of.
thinking Vince Coleman, but Eric Young
Yeah.
was another one. He'd get you like about 80 or 90. But Coleman was kind of like the National League leader whenever Ricky was
Yeah.
the American side. Yeah,
It was always him or Tim Raines kind of in the 80s going back and
yeah,
forth.
yeah.
But I would like to see
And
those aspects of the game back.
and as you stumped me on that little trivia,
Dave
Dave
Collins,
Collins of the
60
Jays,
steals.
Dave Collins. Yeah, which is
60
which is
steals in
great.
1984.
Which is
Like,
great.
even,
That's awesome.
I know Shannon Stewart had 54. That's the biggest he ever had. So, I mean, unless the game does change completely, that record could stand in Jay's annals forever. I mean, I'm
Ever.
still
Yeah.
surprised even now that it actually lasted this long. Because
Yeah.
Dave Collins, I think, played one season for us.
No.
Big old glasses.
Yeah.
Like, he did not look like a ball player. He looked like an accountant. He looked kind of like Rand
That
Smelnick.
was
Put him and
Rand
Dave
Smelnick's.
Collins together.
Rand Smelnick's was the shop teacher. That's what we used to call him. We used to call him the shop teacher
Yeah.
because we couldn't figure out if it was metal shop or wood shop, but that's what he did. One of those.
He looked good during the reunion, actually. He looked a lot better than I thought he would, considering how long
Well,
he's been.
that's the thing is because he always looked like he was 50 or 60 when he played baseball. That's something to think of. Like, look at some of those old baseball cards. Like those
I know,
guys,
they look
old. They always
No,
look old.
like I was saying, the Golden Girls, Blanche from the Golden Girls was 51 years old in the show. 51. She looks like she's 75 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I think as we're getting older, I think we're just looking a little bit younger. Like, I'm almost 50. I ain't got no wrinkles. I mean, I don't smile very much. That's why I don't have any crow's eyes.
Mine is. I don't really have a lot of wrinkles because I'm fatter than I should be, so my face is sort of puffing the wrinkles out. That's
Well, that might be
that's
part
the
of
thing.
me too.
I'm out of shape.
That
That's
could
what it is.
be it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we're trying to
this is
find we're trying to find people. We're at the advertisers. You know, you got
this is a
something that can
year's
help
worth
us.
this is a year's worth of growth that can maybe hide like a little crow's feet here or whatever. So, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, we can show it on camera week by week. We'll take photos and videos of people showing us getting slim. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the quitting
hence-
smoking that didn't help. Like, once I quit smoking, I've been putting on weight ever since.
That was the old Troy McClure. Smoke yourself thin. Get
Oh,
confidence,
God, yeah.
Stupid.
I saw a thing today. They were doing a Comic-Con. I guess they had a Simpsons thing set up. So
Yeah.
they had Homer come on the screen going, okay, now we're going to do the Simpsons universe. And he starts doing like a Marvel universe type thing with like they had Ned Pool, for example, like Ned Flanders as Deadpool, like stuff like that. It was pretty funny. Yeah. And then Kevin Feige called just, hey, Kevin, how's it going? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it sounds great. Thanks. Okay, cancel that. We can't do that. Not allowed. It was pretty funny.
I'm actually
so
surprised. I'm actually surprised we haven't got a call yet about things that we're not allowed to do. We have toned down the language. So far, we've done 24 minutes without swearing. You almost did when you're trying to say Shannon, but it's all right. That doesn't count.
Yeah, it's part of my. Hey, smart people swear, and smart people are messy. So that means I'm brilliant. Brilliant.
All right.
Okay,
so you one of the things that you wanted to sort of touch on, and I actually I'm excited about this as well, is who would our ideal postseason matchup be? I know who we don't want to face, and you've actually mentioned it beforehand. Yeah.
First of all, are we built for a deep playoff run?
I actually
Do
think we are because I think so because if you're built for a deep playoff run, you need three pitchers to go for it, right?
yeah.
Because you'll go on like a 3-man rotation pretty much, and I say Stripling has pretty much put himself into that.
I was just
You
gonna
got
say,
Manoa.
Stripling put himself in that territory.
He totally has. He totally has. It's going to be Manoa, and I think Gaussman's going to right the ship, but it's going to be Stripling, Gaussman,
Yeah,
and Manoa, and then you can bring in Barrios as like long relief, when you need him,
yeah.
because he's still having like hit and miss games, and you don't really get a lot of opportunity to have a hit and a miss game. So, but
I just have a funny
Stripling's been on
feeling
fire
that I mean I would prefer Stripling, but I have a really funny feeling that they'll put him in the bullpen because he's done it before. I
because he's
don't
done it
want them
before. Yeah,
to.
no,
I just it's not what I want. But I mean, if that might be the factor that does it, especially if Barrios keeps pitching decently as he has been the last
yeah,
like 5 or 6 starts. It might push Stripling back into that role. I don't know. It's hard to say.
but
I mean, good thing we don't have to worry about a fifth starter because
yeah, because we don't have one.
yeah,
That's where he played as that role as the Dodgers. He came over and started that role here, and then with
yeah.
Ryu's injury, he slipped into that spot, and like not even just slipped into it. He's played his way into like the top two of
I'm
our
just hoping he
starters. I think.
resigns. Like I just want him
Yeah,
to resign with us. I think he will. And
I
Vladdy
think so.
wants to be a Blue Jay for life. Apparently, in some interview he
Nice.
did, he said he wants to be a Blue Jay for life. He wants to sign a contract this off season, which might not be the best thing for him
Yeah.
because not that he's having a down season, because he's still like up there. Like if you look at
Well,
batting average and hits and things
it's
like that, he's still
it's
like
also
top 10.
another one of those things that you can throw in there is like if the Jays make a deep playoff run, which I think they actually will, that also helps as well, right? Because
Yeah.
whatever happens in the season, no one remembers that if you have a killer, postseason, right?
See,
Like
okay, now that goes back to what we were going to talk about. Like, who should we face? The team I do not want to face is Seattle. I don't want to face
Seattle.
Seattle because right
I'm
now
ready.
they are the team we are going to be facing, and that
Yeah.
worries me because Castillo has been lights out for them. Like their top pitching is better than ours, and their bullpen is better than ours.
Well, we faced
Um,
Seattle when they were supposed to be crap, remember? And then they just wiped the floor with us, and they've only gotten better because like
well, and the
that
thing
was
that
at
they
that
did
was
they
at the
sweep us
start
in
when they
Seattle.
yeah, and that was at the start of like that big run they had as well. Sweep us in
Yeah.
Seattle, isn't that like a Tom Hanks movie? It's like no,
Oh yeah. Hey, I
that
like
was
that
a
movie. It's pretty good.
that was
I
a
thought Meg
dad
Ryan
joke.
was
You know
kind of
what?
hot.
That sounded hilarious in my head, and then as soon as I said it, I'm just like, you know what? I'm
Yeah,
not going to edit that. I'm going to keep that in.
that's my everyday. That is my
Yeah.
everyday.
But yeah,
Um,
they had a
Cleveland.
3 or 4 game winning streak, and then we went in there, and then we lost 4, and then they went
Yeah,
on a 12 game winning streak, and played themselves right up into the into the
I
thick
mean
of
they've
things.
got let's see, it'd be Luis Castillo, Robbie Ray, and Logan Gilbert right now. Is
Hey,
how we're
and they've
laying
got a
out.
Canadian Abraham Toro who's actually coming off the bench and actually doing all
And they
right.
have a Canadian from Kingston named Matt Brash in the
Matt
bullpen who's
Brash.
killing it.
Yep. Yeah.
Right, their bullpen they got the big arms that we want. Like the big arms that we will have next year, like Zulueta and all those guys, will have them next year. We've got experience, but we don't
Yeah.
have like the power arms that the hit the swing and miss kind of stuff, which is what everybody's been
Yeah.
saying we need. I don't think we do. We have the sixth best bullpen since like August. Um,
I actually do
we're
like our bullpen now. Like, I mean, Bass and Pop, they're
mhm.
to be honest, they're doing great. And Simbers had his bad games. Don't get me wrong. Like he comes in,
I think he's being overused personally. He's
yeah,
leading the league in appearances. Like he's appeared like 64 times already.
yeah.
Like
But
that's a
I
lot for
think
a
that
side armor.
if you put White back in there, like if you have him go back into a role where instead of him being a starter, he just has to concentrate on okay, you're going to face 3, possibly 4 batters. I think
Yeah,
he'll be all right. And
because like I would
just
love that Merriweather there, but Merriweather doesn't qualify. Well, no, he was in the injured list, so maybe he does.
yeah,
Um, I think Merriweather will put him on the postseason roster because he's been pitching all right.
yeah.
Like he's been doing well enough, and he has the capabilities of hitting, of swing and miss kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but you got like it's gonna be so. Let's see, we got Romano, Bass, Garcia, Simber, Richards, um, Kikuchi. He's going to
Hmm.
be there. I mean,
Yeah.
regardless.
Oh no, he'll actually.
Merriweather.
I think he'll actually be good in the playoffs. I think that'll hopefully make him shine. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't like it's the thing. Like he has that first inning hiccup. Even when he's like when he with the last game he gave up 2 runs right away and then he took up
Mhm.
4 of the next 6 guys. But it seems
But
like
that's
he
why
has a
that's why
problem starting.
if you maybe
Like
bring him
even if he comes
in,
in the second or third inning, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
His first time on the mound, whether it's the first inning or the fifth inning or whatever it is, he always gives up runs to begin with, and then he settles down and he's fine.
Like
So,
ideally, what should happen for him is if he comes in just about the time to face like 7, 8, and 9, but maybe the second time around. That's the
yeah,
ideal sort of situation for him. So
but you can't always pick it like that. And since
no.
and Maza's in there too, so Meza was the other one. So
Oh
that's
God,
that's our
yeah,
bullpen right there.
yeah.
That's our 8-man bullpen.
And Mesa was supposed to be done, with that injury, and he's come back like with nothing.
Doing all
Like
right.
it looks like nothing happened. Yeah.
But there's gonna be no pop, unfortunately, unless there's an
Mm-hmm.
injury. So you have Kikuchi as the long man,
Yeah.
and Stripling will be in there.
And well,
Or
I figure
Barrios.
Stripling will probably be more of the long man. Kikuchi might even just be like an inning, because if they don't use
Kikuchi
Stripling as a
should be
starter,
looking at
yeah,
the numbers. Kikuchi should be a left-handed specialist. He should be
yeah,
facing lefties because righties hit the crap out of him. Lefties do
mm-hmm.
not. He actually
Yeah,
does not too bad against left. So what they should do for the playoffs, just for the playoffs, until
mm-hmm.
we figure them out for next year, is you have Stripling in there or Barrios, whoever it is, to be the long man, and Kikuchi should just be a left-handed specialist. The only
Well, see,
problem is the stupid 3 batter rule. I think, honestly, the 3 batter rule's got to go. I hate
yeah.
the 3 batter rule. It
Well,
just no, I don't
well,
like
one of
it.
the things to think of as well is Seattle and Tampa both have a few switch hitters too, so it doesn't matter what we put in at that point in time; they'll accommodate.
Yeah.
Whereas we've got right-hander, 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 right.
Well, we definitely next year need a couple lefties for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, that should be their priority because you can't spend any more money on pitching unless you're signing Stripling,
Yeah.
right? Other than that, like you've got big like Manoa, you don't have to sign him yet. There's a whole bunch of people again calling for signing these young players early to these large contracts.
What about that 100 million 15-year contract that person was bandying about? Like, here, I'm gonna let you stew on that while I do a commercial for Shillow beer. I figured I'd hear you in the background of that one, just stewing. So, folks, this is a beer commercial. No, there's not going to be classic rock, a ridiculous cottage by a lake with girls in bikinis trying to sell you schlock beer. There is a girl, however, who is the brewmaster, and she makes killer beers. A small independent brewery out of the south end of this nation's capital, that is Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and certified kosher beers as well. You'll find an incredible lineup: session ales, Vienna lagers, sours, stouts, pales, and IPAs. And they're not run of the mill. To my personal favorite, the Belgian Beer Snob. So they don't need to throw around the idea that your summer is going to be awesome if you drink their beer. They just make great beer. And if you do have an amazing cottage by the lake with jet skis and 80s rock playing in the background, then it also can't hurt to actually drink Shillow beer as well. So go to shillowbeer.com.
Okay, so we also got to think about the AL Central is going to play a pivotal role in some of this too, because I mean it's already given. Unless we win the East, which we still can do, it's going to be the AL East, AL West are going to be your top 2 seeds automatically.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way. It's
Yeah. Oh,
going.
yeah. Well, Houston is the big gun right now.
Yeah.
Like it used to be the Yankees.
Right.
Houston is now the big gun. So
Yeah, and now White Sox were making a push, but Cleveland's won like 9 of the last 10. Now Cleveland's pitching they've had the third best ERA in the last couple months, 265 team ERA, but they can't hit.
No.
I mean, they have some hitters, but they're like us kind of like they have guys who can hit, but for a while there we weren't stringing our hits together to get anything done. They've been winning because of pitching, and they're probably. I mean, they just took the doubleheader from Minnesota. They're probably
and that's a direct rival, so that's actually good for them. But
exactly. So they're 4 games up on Chicago, I believe. Let me just double check my standings here. 4.5 up on Chicago with a game in hand. So, I mean, the way it looks now, pretty much it's going to be we pretty much know our playoff team. It's going to be the Yankees, Houston, Cleveland as the division winners most likely. Toronto could be one, and then Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Seattle
In
are the
Seattle.
other
Yeah.
three. Toronto could take the East or whatever. That's the only thing that could possibly change. If
Yeah.
the Yankees hold on to it, then it's you're jockeying for position in the wild card. And the interesting thing about these playoffs, which I find odd. I mean, it's a new thing and it's odd. Is that you're playing all your games at that person's stadium. There's no like back and forth.
Yeah.
Like if you're
That's
that's why it's really important to get home field advantage
to
in
get
the
home field
playoffs these
advantage.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you
Well,
don't, you're not. Yeah, none. Like none.
what's actually just when you're talking about like final standings about how it's going to happen, the Jays were predicted to be the division winners from the start of the season, and then at the like first month into the season, the Yankees were just on fire, and the Yankees were predicted to break the wins record, and then the Jays were they said the outside shot of the Jays is maybe to get 89 wins. So there's 16 games left. The Jays have 83 already, so they're already sort of beating and then not beating expectations, which is kind of funny. But if they do,
10-6 is 93 wins.
yeah,
That's not bad. Like we could conceivably get 95 wins, and who would have thought that 2 months ago?
yeah, and but that's also a thing too. Like you also have to think of the fact that there was a couple of times. This is before the whole invention of the wild card system. There was some 90-win Jays teams that were good that didn't make it in because that was when the Yankees were on fire, or like it just so. I would actually love us to get 90 just to hit that mark, and that's
Well,
actually,
we're gonna get over 90 for sure. I think we have to just to make the playoffs in general. I mean, the Yankees, they're kind of an interesting team because they're always a veteran team generally.
Yeah,
they've got a lot of prospects, but they keep giving up prospects for people like Frankie Montas, who is now getting an MRI done in his shoulder. He might be done, which is interesting. Their Jameson Taillon's been up and down. Severino's on the IL again. Garrett Cole's Garrett Cole. Nestor Cortez is still doing pretty good. We got guys like Aaron Hicks.
I think they still have Chapman on the DL as well. I believe. I don't think they've got him back yet because I think he was like
they've got a bunch of guys in the bullpen that are gone. Chapman even wasn't pitching that well. Isaac Falefa has been hitting. Stanton again on the disabled list. Andrew Benintendi gone for the year. Josh Donaldson.
Josh Donaldson just hasn't been hit.
Much. Yeah. Who was it they brought in? They brought there's another player they brought. Matt Carpenter came in. He was hitting a ton, and then he's gone for the season.
And Matt Carpenter had a good. Yeah, he had a good little stint when they actually went into St. Louis as well, and Matt Carpenter was on fire playing in St. Louis. So
and then DJ LeMay, he was on the disabled list.
Yep.
Like, this is the problem you have with a veteran-laden team is you're going to get these kind of injuries even more so than usual. And that's why they've been, the only reason they've been winning lately is because Judge has been driving in the runs to make them win.
Well, that's the thing. Like when the Yankees were on fire, like at the beginning of the 2000s, sort of midway around, you had that core five guys, right? You had your Jeter, you had your Posada, Pettit. There was five guys. Bernie Williams was always there, but there was five guys that were sort of their core, and they would always bring in certain things around. Whereas they don't have a core right now. They've got Judge.
Yeah, I would say their core now would probably be Judge and
Hicks. Yeah, Judge Hicks and LeMahieu.
I don't know about Trevino, the catcher. I think now is on that list because he made the All-Star team. I think he's going to be back there for a while. I mean, Garrett Cole obviously.
Gleyber Torres is supposed to be their everyday shortstop, and he's done okay, but in terms of the bat, he's not really a star in that.
Yeah, he's had his moments, but everybody gets their moments in a 162 game season.
Yeah,
I mean, they got a lot of work. I mean, if they blow the AL East lead, I have a very funny feeling that Cashman's going to get canned. He's been there for a long time. Yeah. Like a really long time.
And the one thing about the Yankees is the Yankees every 10 years they're good for a World Series.
And they haven't won a World Series in a while.
Yeah. And
Just
there
looking up
was
a long ranking.
there was a span in the '80s actually. They went the entire '80s without it, and then they won a couple in the '90s. Take away 2 years for strikes and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, the Yankees within a 10-year span will win you a World Series or two, and it's been dry.
Wow. So let's see. Brian Cashman has served as the general manager and senior vice president of the Yankees since 1998.
24
So
years.
that's
Wow.
yeah, literally almost 25 years. Like, I mean, he's kind of due anyway. Like, you
Yeah.
got to push him out at some point because he's an old fart. Old fart. Like
That was a
his hairline looks like mine. I just saw the picture of him. So I mean, for me in the playoffs, if we're gonna face anybody,
I'd love to face the
it's
Yankees.
I think Cleveland is the one that we'd have to fit. That would be the ideal one because I think they're the one that has the most. That's the most fragile. Because if not, then we're going to be playing the Rays or the Mariners, and both of them could kick
Well,
our
that's the thing.
ass.
Yeah, and that's the bonus about being the if we still take the top wild card spot,
Mm-hmm.
we would play. We
Yeah, at
would
least we play
play
here.
here. Yeah, we would get
Yeah,
our home right. So Cleveland would
yeah,
get theirs, and but then we'd end up playing two of the teams they don't want to play. So
yeah. Well, yeah.
it's a win lose kind of thing, right? Like the two teams
Like
we don't want to face,
obviously,
at least we would get our home.
yeah. Like Houston obviously has the play. They could have home field advantage all through the playoffs because of their record. There's no way they're
Yeah,
going to get caught.
no,
So then you're playing for the second best, which is okay until you meet Houston. But
yeah,
I mean, it could be interesting playoffs. I'm glad there's no one games. At least there's 3 game, 5 game, 7 game,
yeah.
whatever. It's great. Like none of these 1 game playoffs, which are ridiculous. Even 3 games doesn't really in baseball tell you.
I'm actually fine with a 3 game playoff because then it gives like
No,
essentially the rotation
I can deal.
everyone a thing. Yeah,
I can deal with that. It's just,
yeah,
I mean, it doesn't necessarily fully. I mean, anybody
show
who's
that.
hot could win a 3 game series, right?
Yeah,
5 games, you start getting into who's the better team because you're getting down to more depth, right?
yeah.
So we'll see. So the other big thing that happened this week was this thing with Alek Manoah, Alejandro Kirk, and this goof from TSN named Matthew Ross. Did you hear about this?
I've heard little bits, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Matthew Ross is a guy. He's an on-air guy for TSN 960 in Montreal. So he was talking about the shot where Alejandro Kirk ran home from first base, chugging along like the little truck that he is, and the guy called it embarrassing, and he said that he was trying to say it's embarrassing for the league to be showcasing such players who are who look like Alejandro Kirk. And I mean, I have said these things before that I thought Kirk is a little bit too big for what he's supposed to be doing, right? But I never took away his abilities. And Matthew Ross said the same thing also at one point that I've said. It's like, well, how good could he be if he was in better shape? Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't body shaming him. I'm just saying the fact that, and he has a hip problem now because of that run. Like he's now like hurt because of what he did. And that was the whole point of what I'm trying to make. This guy Matthew Ross put it in a really terrible way. Like he really said it wrong.
It was the same point, but hammering it, with every single wrong
and,
aspect of it. Yeah,
and not just that, but he kept doubling down on himself. Like kept doubling down on what he was saying. I'm saying it for MLB, and it's nothing to do with body shaming. I'm saying that if MLB is going to be pushing these players, he's like, people want to see certain players, and they don't want to see da 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 da. And then Manoah's like, well, if they didn't want to see guys like Alejandro Kirk, then how come he got millions of people who voted him into the All-Star game? Would you? Yeah. If they don't want to see him, they wouldn't have voted him in. I mean, like I said, I get where Ross was coming from, but Ross did it the wrong way. You don't just attack somebody like that. There's a way of saying it without saying it, like I've been trying to do. So if you're going to attack a person and how they're playing, and because of their body shape or whatever, you don't attack a guy who's got the best numbers of any catcher in the American League and possibly all of baseball. This is kind of dumb. You can make comments about maybe, lose a couple, he could have run faster, all that kind of stuff. Maybe. But just to say that he's an embarrassment is wrong. You just don't. He's not an embarrassment. It's just the wrong thing to say. I mean, he's 5'8", 245 pounds. That's a big kid, and you can see it. But you know what? He hustles. I mean, he runs down to first faster than a lot of other guys do. So I have no problem with his hustle, and that's the thing. He hustled his way around. I never thought he'd make it, but he did. So I mean, he's maybe faster than you think he is. You know, he surprises people all the time. So I'm hoping that, you know, this will go down. I have a really funny feeling Matt Ross is going to get either fired because he's already deleted his Twitter account because of what he said, because he knows he said it wrong, but he still doubles down on his wrongness. So Matthew, just kind of chill, man. You done screwed up. Stop screwing the screwing, because you're gonna lose your goddamn job. You know,
it's one of those ones where someone says something and then you know it's wrong, and then it's the Chai Rodriguez from Les Nessman.
Yeah.
Hey Les, it's Chichi Rodriguez. But because he'd already said it, and he doesn't want to appear, erroneous, he'll keep going down on it. So yeah. All right. I figure after a little Jeff Con rant, that wasn't even a rant as well. That was the funny part, is I was expecting that to go like way harsher.
It's funny when the Jays are winning, there's not a lot to rant about because people are not all pissy about things, but there's still people still say dumb stuff. Okay, so here I'm looking at the thing here. It says, let's see, what does it say? It just is okay. So it's just showing what Manoa says. Okay, it says, so now you're saying attendance is down because too many big guys play the sport? Let me ask you, why did you get millions of votes to start the All-Star game? And what's narrow is your nose. You should probably fix that. Your ratings are down because of it. Woo! You know that meme where the guy goes like, ah! That meme, that's the meme that you see for this one.
You know what I like? I was going to say, you know what I like about Manoa? Manoa doesn't take anything. Like, he will instantly like fire back, and like, the whole bit with the Audi symbol, like,
who's going to argue with him? He's 6'6", 285 pounds. I wouldn't argue with him.
But
here's what Matthew R. said. There's no point. People make up their mind and can be cruel. I commented on a video clip possibly being a turnoff for casual fans who don't hold baseball players in high regard. All of a sudden, I'm fat shaming. That couldn't be further from the truth. I have daughters with body issues, and it's been a painful situation. I commented on the perception of pro athletes in the sport, and all of this happened. It's been horrible. People are relentless and feed off misinformation on there. It was better to extricate myself from the situation. Thank you for being polite in your message. So now all of a sudden, he's not fat shaming because his daughters?
I was just about to say, here's the crap part about that, is that I didn't know he had, a wife and kids or whatever, and now he's just throwing that under the bus and throwing his daughters under the bus. Like, his daughters could have, been fine with it, and now they're just like, oh, great, like,
exactly.
Yeah,
like, he's just making it worse for everybody.
Way to parent.
I don't know who. Originally when this came out, people didn't know he was a host. People thought he was just some random dude, and then they found out he's on a radio station. They're like, oh, that's even worse.
Yeah. Next thing you know, he's going to be like, but you know what? China's got some pretty good policies, and I agree wholeheartedly. He's not going to dig himself another hole, or he's going to dig himself another hole, I should say. But
there's not really Uyghurs. I don't know what you're talking about, the Uyghurs. Never heard of them at all.
Tibet what? Tibet what? So yeah, he's pretty much just going to dig himself a hole. All right, we got ourselves 12 minutes left. We're just sort of flying through some of this stuff here.
Yeah, it's weird.
We got to pop another commercial. We got to do a third.
All right.
Do you want me to do stage 10, or do you want to appease the masses or appeal to the masses?
No, do stage 10. That's cool.
Right on.
We already mentioned my stuff earlier.
Yeah. Boom. Yeah, there we go. All right, kids. Well, you've seen us on the podcast here. And if you want to be a podcast star like us, if you want to be a superstar like us, host a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel, or just create a good video blog, then Stage 10 can turn your computer into a production studio, adding graphics, music, and videos on the fly, as well as patching in multiple guests. Some from as far away as China. Like we just mentioned China just before, and Jeffy was in China. The friendly staff will help you.
People are going to think I'm a communist.
They have bailed us out on many occasions. Stage 10 allows you to broadcast simultaneously to multiple platforms and all media sites. So if you want to be a star like us, Stage 10 can make you look good. Visit stage10.tv. Boom. There we go.
Seriously, people are going to start thinking I was a communist or something. Like I'm some kind of communist sympathizer. I'm the one that got the two Michaels put in jail back in the day. But no, China's socialism. That's what they tell you on all the posters everywhere you go in China. They're socialists.
They're socialists. Yeah. Kind of like, the People's Democratic Republic of Korea. Yeah, the people voted for him. Although they treat him as God.
We've got time left. So let's have some other stuff in baseball going on right now. So I think the biggest one I was going to say is Pujols. He's now got 2 homers away from 700.
Yeah. And that's cool. And that's a dude that deserves the applause. Yeah.
It's a resurgence too. Like he was doing terribly in Anaheim for the longest time. He comes back to St. Louis. He apparently changed his stroke a bit where he eliminated part of his like a foot lift or something like that when it came to his swing. So his swing would be faster because he's older. And this apparently has led to his 850 OPS and almost 20 home runs. Like, who would have thought that Albert Pujols would hit 20 home runs at the age of 42?
Yeah,
like, I didn't.
And actually, you know what? If you stick in St. Louis, it was actually a pretty cool thing on the weekend as well, or not on the weekend, just during the week, whereas Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina had their 325th start together. So that as a battery mate. I thought it was 325.
I thought it was 352.
So maybe I'm dyslexic. Okay, 352. But either way,
I'm gonna look it up.
They as battery mates, that's the MLB record. So that's actually kind of cool.
You know, it's really funny because the guys who had the record actually, it looks like you were right and I was wrong. 325. Yeah, it's 325. But it's funny because I know who Mickey Lolich is, right? Who shared the record with Bill Freehan of the Detroit Tigers in the 60s and 70s. I couldn't pick Bill Freehan out of a lineup. I have no idea who he is. I've never heard his name before, and yet he caught 324 games of Mickey Lolich.
Yeah,
it just shows you how many baseball players that are probably pretty good out there that we've never heard of.
Yeah. So, and I mean, obviously, you're playing at least, say 1,500 games, because if he's doing 300 and some odd with one pitcher, then multiply that by like 4 or 5, because they probably would have had a 5-man rotation.
So they've been here for 18 years. So that means like they haven't caught every start in every season, obviously.
No.
Because if they did, there'd be way more than that. Like 10 years would be 32 starts, right? 325 would be like 10 years worth of starts.
10 years,
so you add 8 into that. So he's probably catching like 20 times a season ever since for the last 18 years. Yeah. It's great. I mean, I think Wainwright's going. If you see Wainwright's going to stay, and if Pujols gets 700, he'll retire, and Yadi's definitely going to retire. Well, Wainwright.
I think he's the last of the Molinas. I think, isn't he? Yadier Molina. I think he's the last one kicking around, because there was 4 at one time. We had 2.
Yeah. Well, Wainwright wants 200 wins, which right now is like the standard now, because you can't get you're not going to get 300 anymore. It's just not going to happen. I mean, there's outside shots, I guess, because I mean, Clemens got it, and like Maddox got them. So I mean, it's not like it can be done, but you're gonna have to get like a Hall of Fame pitcher to do it, like somebody who's really killing it. So I mean, right now, I'd say if you can get to 225, 250, that should be automatic Hall now, just because of the way things are played. But it's funny,
250 is the new 300. I think 225
is 225 might be the new 300.
Yeah,
it's just because no one's going to get to it. Like you're pitching 30. See if you're doing 30. Like look at Alek Manoah. Like he's got 14 wins now. Like even Verlander. Verlander's got 17 wins. He might get 20, maybe, but he'd have to win every. I think every start he's got left, or close to that anyway. So I mean, it's really hard to get 20 wins because decision-wise, That's the other, decisions are different because your bullpen is longer. You have more people who can go in and get
Yeah.
it. Back in the day when they were doing this, we had 4 or 5 man rotations and a 6-man bullpen. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
that was it.
And then it's
Yeah.
a 7-man bullpen, and now it's an 8-man bullpen, and you're
Well,
taking guys
I
off
think
the bench.
I think the guys that obviously are definitely going to pull it off. You're going to have Verlander. You're going to have Scherzer. Those guys are.
Yeah.
Those guys are. If Kershaw can, get the injuries down again. But I mean, like every couple of months he's thrown out a back or something. But that's a guy that's going to be able to do as well, because these are guys that are solidly getting you like 20 some odd wins a season. So that's
Yeah.
like it's they're the rare breed. Like you pretty much just, if they're pitching that game. You know what? Another one that I think is probably going to do and who's early in his career, probably Jacob deGrom. I have a feeling he might actually pull off about 200 wins.
I don't think he will. I think he's too hurt all the time. He's hurt every season. I don't think he's going to pitch enough to make it. I just don't think I don't think
I think those injuries, like he does start off on the DL quite a bit, but I think the injuries aren't like massively debilitating. Like it's not like a twisted back.
How long?
Or
But the
something.
thing is, how long was he out for? Like he's out for long.
He was on the 90 game DL, like at the start of the season. So he was out for 3 months.
That's the thing. Like that's a long time.
So that's
That's a really long
let's say
time.
10 starts. Let's say 10 starts. But I think if he does stay healthy, then he's a guy that could do it, because he's got the power, he's got the pitching command to do it.
Okay. So I'm looking at career wins right now just to see where they are. The highest current player, like somebody who's still pitching, who's up on the list, is Verlander has 243 wins. The next one after that is Zach Greinke.
Zach Greinke?
Has 200.
I forgot about him. Yeah.
He's got 223. He's been pitching for Kansas City, but he was hurt quite a bit. He has actually more wins than Pedro Martinez.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And then you got to really go down. The next one is Scherzer with 199.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, he's
then Adam
away.
Wainwright.
Awesome.
Wainwright's got 195. Kershaw's got 193. So he's been playing 15 years. He's 34 years old. So it's a matter of, does his arm hold up? He could get up there, but will his arm hold up? And then I'm really scrolling down to find the next ones. You're getting into like the two. Wow. The next one after that is David Price at 157.
Oh, wow.
There's nobody near that.
That's like 2 solid seasons. 2 solid seasons of Cy Young baseball. Yeah.
So like I'm looking at the top wins, and I'm going to look for the closest one I can say that would be our like around what we are, as opposed to the old school. If you're talking new school play, like Maddox and Clemens are up there. Obviously, they're like 8th and 9th. But then after that, Glavin's 21st, Randy Johnson's 22nd. They have over 300.
Yeah.
And then, Messina's got 270. Jamie Moyer at 260. And Jamie Moyer pitched 25 years. That's crazy. Andy Pettit has 256. CC Sabathia 251. Tied with Bob Gibson, which is interesting. Yeah, just there's not a lot of like new school guys on these lists, and most of these guys are pre 1990, except for those.
Except
David
for
Wells.
like
Actually, David Wells had more wins than I thought. David Wells finished with 239 wins.
Oh wow, that's all right.
That's a lot more than I thought. Way more than Greinke had.
We got to wrap her up. We got a minute left, man.
Cool. Give us money. We need money, because with money we can keep doing all this entertaining stuff for you and reading shit. All right, stop. Almost made it.
Almost made it. Almost made it. Almost
you
made
can
it.
say it on regular TV. There's actually a game show on Netflix called Bullshit.
Yeah.
Hosted by Howie Mandel. It's very funny. But yeah, so sign up for us. The Canadian Way, check them out. Check us out at 365sportscast.com, 5 p.m. every Sunday to listen to this first. And after that, you can hear us at any place you can get your podcast stuff. On Twitter, we are the 4040 Men. On Facebook, we are the 4040 Men. On Instagram, we are the 4040 Men. Look us up. Sign up. Like, subscribe. Watch us on YouTube, because no one is. Somebody should. Maybe you should be the one to watch us on YouTube. And then like us and subscribe.
We got 14 fans in Belgium. All right, we got to go.
Woohoo, Belgium!